has been awakened, that has lain dormant for millions of years. A species older than the dinosaurs and more terrifying than anything we could have imagined.
How did they go from 1 to a million in less than a year?
Highly evolved.
They have great vision in the day. They have even better vision at night.
Extremely intelligent.
He's playing hide and seek.
More like cat and mouse.
Unbelievably powerful.
2 glands in the mouth secrete separate chemicals.
Combining exhalation, nitrile napalm.
Good luck.
Now one will protect them,
We have to hang on, work together.
and one will lead them.
There's nothing magical about it. They're made of flesh and blood. You take out their heart, you bring down the beast.
We found out where they started. We're going to London.
Summer,
Vertical one up.
the plan is set.
1,600 yards, closing fast.
The arsenal has been assembled.
Get ready to rock and roll. Each other!
They've got one chance to take back their world. Matthew McConaughey, Christian Bale. Rain of Fire.
We had to come up with something that was absolutely insane and try to do it in a realistic way.
You wanted something that's so kind of evil and malevolent.
And it's sort of a combination of a snake and a hawk and a bird.
We tried to make them as vicious and as organic as we possibly could.
These creatures are formidable and you just should not tangle with them. There's a possibility of death around the corner all the time.
There's an obvious angle to take a cartoon aspect. Rob never wanted to do that, and you're going to believe that that world would and could exist.
You need a little bit of everything. You need a little bit of reality and a little bit of magic and a little sleight of hand to make the audience believe that it's real. We spent about 9 months in prep. Rob had some very specific ideas of what the look of the film would be, and it was our job to help him visualize what those were.
I like to do things that I'm not sure if I can pull it off.
And the hard part about that is you're building something that's mythical, that doesn't exist.
So you're kind of taking all this technology and leveraging it and keep pushing and pushing and pushing to kind of build the next generation of creature.
Dan DeLue and I came onto the project early. We started planning out what eventually got labeled Hank's crazy ideas, right? All of the things that we wanted to tackle that people said couldn't be done.
Such as make it move on the ground like a leopard, make it sound like a cobra about to strike, make the skin look sort of like an alligator, but make it the spine of a serpent.
So we looked at all those different creatures and built some of their characteristics and how the creature would move. We went through a lot of animal footage. Lions, tigers, Komodo dragons.
And how does it blow fire? Where does the fire come from? And I was looking a lot at snakes and cobras. I was watching National Geographic and it showed this cobra spitting, and I thought, well, that's it. That's how we'll do it. It'll be glands that squirt out opposite chemicals, and when the two touch, there's flame.
In any one individual department, they can't really tell what it all looks like until we put it all together. In this particular shot, this is actually real fire. It was shot with a bulldozer that had nozzles and fire hoses, and it would spray it out and actually make this fire. But we had to remove the bulldozer, and so you see here we added some CG nozzles of stuff coming out so that it could blend with the fire.
Early on, the creature had an extra long neck. Initially, we were going to play it more lizard-like. However, after seeing this test, we felt like it lacked something, and it didn't feel threatening enough. We decided to take it in a different direction. So we took an approach that everything would hang from the shoulders, like a hornet, and we ended up with a look that was a lot meaner. The things that communicate that are purely shape. So we look for torn shapes in the wings, always trying to show the spikes on the wings and this torn membrane look.
It was so much harder than I thought it was going to be because every bone, every muscle, every gland, every toenail, it's basically building an animal.
What we're looking at here is the Tootsie rig. It's kind of a low-res representation of the body on the animator skeleton, and by hanging these masses, or what we call Tootsie Rolls, on the bones, we can get a quick feedback in real time. If we look from a different camera angle, we can see all the controls to move the creature around.
It really makes it more challenging for us to make that creature so believable and scary and realistic that when they're watching it, they don't even stop to think, oh, that's just an effect. They're too busy going, oh my God, he's gonna die.
There were some techniques that we wanted to employ to convince the audience this was real, and one of those was photogrammetry. This is the background plate that was shot on location. We sent the survey guys out to survey all the points on the castle, the rocks. We used that information to go in and track the scene. We have a rough track of Quinn's face, and these arrows coming out of his eyes are his point of view. And so this way we know that the dragon is flying exactly where he's looking.
The challenge in coming up with a character is in taking a creature so big and so large that theoretically it wouldn't be scared of anything, and giving it a will, giving it a direction to follow through, and giving it an arc in the story.
You have Matthew and Christian and so on there giving their input. Well, I was there giving the creature's input. You know, well, I would have done this in this scene. You know, and where's my close-up?
I don't think anyone has ever seen anything like this in any movie, from the casting, from the locations, to the production design, to amalgamating that with the CGI elements.
It's extremely realistic, very gritty, very real, a very, very exciting action movie, thrilling at the same time.
I think they knew more than I did about how well it was going to come out, and that it had to be realistic. And that's the one you're worried about, is like, it's a bunch of dots. How is it going to look liquid and fleshy? And then, hardest of all, how's it going to have a personality? It's a dot. They did it. Scary movies are best when they're scary, but it's not easy to do that. I grew up watching big classic movies with my parents who knew every name and every actor and every director. Night Stalker and Night Gallery, those are the ones that really grab me because they utilize the imagination. It doesn't matter if it's impossible. If I can convince you that it's happening and that happening scares you, I thought that's really interesting, that a filmmaker can create a world to where you'll believe in this Night Gallery that you look at a painting and the grave is coming up, and then you cut back to the face and you go back to the painting, now that the coffin's opening, cut back to the face, and now the corpse is walking towards the house. You cut back to the guy, and then you go back to the painting, the guy's on the front porch, and he looks at the door, and there's a knock at the door, and I'm getting chills just telling the story, and I think, I believe it. That's interesting to me. I was watching TV one night, and I see the trailer to the X-Files pilot, which was the boy in the woods with the leaves swirling around. And I liked the lighting, and I liked the imagination, and I called my agent and said, just get me a meeting. Off I went. I fell in love with that show head over heels, and couldn't direct enough of them. I told them at the beginning of the year, I want to direct as many episodes as I possibly can, and it was one of those things where I knew I was in a great period of my life, and I knew this was very special, and I didn't want it to end. But things do come to an end. I had no idea that I was going to go do a monster movie. And the reason that's funny to me is I didn't like to do the monster episodes. I didn't think I was very good at them. When I shot the X-Files movie and the alien came on set, it was a guy in a rubber suit with Reeboks. And I had this whole fight with the Neanderthal storyboarded. I threw everything out because I now knew I had to like shoot only long lenses and whip on, whip off, and just glances and glimpses and did it very sort of subliminal and subjective. And so to think that I was going to go off and do a giant monster movie would have never occurred to me.
Great teeth.
There's a very thin line between what's scary and what's kind of funny. A bad horror movie, the teenage girl sees the monster and she does the big classic horror scream. Well, we laugh at that now. So what is the right reaction for a person who's scared? Now, I use the idea that when we actually get scared, we don't express anything at all on our face. We actually sort of freeze, adrenaline goes through our veins, and then your instincts kick in and it's fight or flight. You know it's a monster movie coming in, so you're just waiting, when are we going to see it, and what's it going to do, and how does it kill, and how horrible is it when it does kill? And I think that's a very, very important thing in a good scary movie is right up front, you have to show the capabilities of the killer. And then being very careful about how you manage that expectation through probability, and that you only use it a few times. You gotta be careful. You don't overuse it, because if you fool them enough and you don't give them the monster, eventually they'll you're just crying wolf. It's the way you present the creature, it's the way you present the characters and the circumstances. It's very strict adherence to the tone, which is realism, and knowing that the audience is saying, okay, I know dragons don't exist, but if you play by rules that I understand in my day-to-day life, when there's a killer on the loose and the police say lock your doors, he's working in Burbank, everybody's scared. So you don't ever have to see the murderer. If you go to a family who's sitting inside their house with their windows locked and the blinds drawn and, huddled around each other, and you see that they are truly, genuinely scared, we already get an impression of the killer. And so what I'm utilizing as a storytelling device is what I say, expectation, anticipation, possibility, probability. You don't have to go to the next step, which is it shows up and eats them. You just get them to that point to where they're literally, white knuckling because they're dead for certain that something bad's gonna happen.
Oh, God.
One of the genres in films that people like are scary movies. I mean, it's certainly a genre movie, although I have very strict beliefs that the way genre movies work the best is if you shoot and produce them like an A movie. Raiders of the Lost Ark changed everything, and that people wanted to see first-class filmmakers make genre movies because they're fun and they deserve their due attention.
Lightning, lightning. God! Okay, got that. Good. Step print, beauty.
And that's what set me off on Reign of Fires. I thought, okay, monster movie, B movie, make it like an A movie, hire quality actors, get the story to where it works for the kind of movie I want and the tones are correct.
Action.
Now what I want is a massive amount of experience around me. I want to have people who have made large-scale, complex, classy movies. It was agreed upon between Roger Birnbaum and my producer that let's not set out to do this if we don't make the new benchmark for dragons. And I'm going to make sure that they're as realistic as I can make them, that the scenes where we interact with them are as dramatic and as scary as I can possibly come up with. It was the recipe of Reign of Fire that attracted me. Tanks and castles, soldiers and dragons. That's kind of interesting. Timeless. It's medieval and it's futuristic. When I took this movie on, I started doing research about what dragons meant to different countries and was surprised to see the number of countries that all have their own dragon lore or mythology, and they're all different. The medieval version was that they were trying to basically figure out who was the greatest knight, who was the greatest warrior. And the only way you can define that is to put them up against a greater opponent. Dragons represent something that is supreme and impenetrable and overwhelming and intimidating. Knowing that the more outrageous or abstract the opponent, or mythological or not real, then you have to go the exact opposite with the characters. You have to create an absolutely realistic world where the people are living and dying in a world that is controlled by dragons. If they don't believe it's real, they won't really be scared. And there's a rule by which I work in scary movies, which is, okay, you want it to be scary, got it. It's only as scary as it is real. It's only as real as the characters. So in order for the movie to be scary, you have to have real characters. You have to put ordinary people that we recognize from the audience up against these extraordinary opponents. The more I get them to engage in the characters, the more worried they'll be, the more suspenseful it'll be, the more when they do engage, the greater the thrill. The wings are huge. At that point, you can sort of short frame the characters, right? Like you're framing for the dragon, so carry some sky above the trestle, right? A little more headroom. A little more headroom. Big dragon wings, it's flopping around, it's very, very angry. I went to Ireland and shot actors in empty plates. What were the actors acting to? Nothing. Trusting me immensely. A little earlier. Yeah, 10, 15 feet earlier. Yeah. Putting it down left and up high. And so you feel her, she's gone right over you. And saying, okay, the dragon comes around the corner and he looks at you and he snarls and he's about to blow fire. And then I cut to you and he goes, okay, it's scary? I go, oh, it's pretty scary. Okay, action. Cut. He's scarier than that. Oh, more scared. Oh, okay. All right, because I was kind of scared, but am I going to die? Yeah, probably. Oh, got it. Okay, let's go. It's all of that kind of stuff. And half the time you're laughing because it's shoot, 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 pan like this at nothing, and then cut. Great facial reaction, but you pan too fast. Oh, they're a little slower? Yeah. He's making a turn, and they lose airspeed, and it's like, oh, geez, okay, fine, all right. I'll pan slower. How was the arc? You pan from his head to his belly. I did? Yeah, stay on his head. Which is where? Well, just keep panning the same speed. Oh, God, I hope you're right, Rob. Action. It is as insane a notion to go make a movie without the villain on set as you can imagine it would be. And I get to ask this question all the time. Is it hard to make a movie when your dragon isn't there? Yeah. Because I'm praying that TSL keeps their promise and gives me these big scary dragons, because I've directed it down a certain narrow path and the dragon's got to be right there. Hold there, dragon lands, and then just go right back. See the wolf. See the flat. The trouble is that tension in suspense and action is created by the distance between the two opponents. The further apart they are, the less concerned we are. The closer they are, the more concerned you are. So I need to keep the dragons as close as I can without breaking the rules that they can blow fire 150 feet. And if you're within the swing of his head and you're inside 150 feet, I hope you're a quick shot. Because you only have the moment for the inhalation to get either down the throat or in the belly, because the next beat is exhalation and you're gone. You know, isn't it when you go see a scary movie, first you scream like that and you grab your girlfriend or wife or friend or whatever, and then you laugh. It got me, oh my God, and you come out of that and I find that it's actually an enjoyable experience after it's over, that you survive. And you're laughing about, oh man, I was for sure I was never going to scream, and that thing jumped out of the shadows and I came out of my seat, and you spilled your popcorn on me too. Oh, I'm sorry, I lost myself for the moment. To have that sort of emotional or visceral reaction, I think is a really fun thing to do as a filmmaker, see if you can actually create a reaction to the audience. You know, make them laugh, make them cry, make them happy, make them sad, scare them. You can do those things, you fulfilled your promise as an entertainer to take them on a journey. And this one happens to be scary. Why it is people like scary movies over comedies, don't know. I just think it's another one of the powerful physical and emotional reactions we can have in a movie theater, and that I enjoy it, and I'm the first guy to say, well, not me. I'm not going to scare me. And then I'm like this.
My name is Dave Gauthier. I'm the special effects supervisor, and my involvement in the show is particularly with the practical fires on set, the real fires on set, and with safety with those fires, and how visually they're going to look. I've done several jobs at this scale. However, knowing Rob and knowing the kinds of things he likes to do and how big he likes things to get, I sort of did a little research prior to arriving in Ireland about what I could do with liquid propane, which is essentially one of the fuels I use most during the production of the film, and figured out what kind of quantities I could use, what kind of pressures I could push propane and what it would look like, and how safe I could keep it, how directional, and knowing exactly where it was going to go. So there was a bit of research, but there wasn't a whole lot of time. From our initial phone call to me arriving in Dublin, I think was about 2 weeks.
Bring it up, good, hold that there. Your next one, down here, in the metal work by the car.
At times, we had up to 35 people on our crew working with drivers and buyers and all the technicians on set.
Okay, very good, no higher than that.
During the actual filming, I'm sure we had 25 people running around on set, moving flame bars, moving big tanker trucks, and lots of diesel fuel and tanker trucks for that.
We're a little barren on the other side by the, you remember Andrew Nolan's flame bar? That'll have to go back up on that hill. You remember where that was? So maybe we can steal from Peter and pay Paul, okay? Here it comes. Waste not, want none.
Well, I have my standard equipment that I packed. We packed a 40-foot container and shipped it over here, and it took 30 days to get here. The usual special effects equipment, as wind machines and smoke machines and certain propane cannons that I use for smaller sets. But when we got to Ireland, I had a good idea of what I wanted to do, and I talked to the people here, and we sort of put it together and started off with that, namely the Dragon's Breath apparatus, which we built here. Usually I'll be on set a half hour before call, talking to the first assistant director, Bruce Moriarty, determining what he wants to shoot first, how he's going to shoot it in terms of what scene's next, where we're looking, what he intends to see. Then I'll go to my crew and we'll begin to discuss how to plan each day. I'll have a meeting with fire control to make sure that they know what we're doing, how I want them to set up, where I need fire prevention stations, how I want their water hoses run. And then I'll go from there and we'll start loading cylinders with propane, making sure that all our levels are up at a high level and ready to go. Our pressures are up. If we're intending to use the Dragon's Breath, we'll take a few minutes to make sure it's pressurized correctly, that we have the appropriate fuels, test all the remote control valves that we have on it, making sure all the hoses are perfect, no holes or any kind of problems with them, all the connections are good. So that during the day, when we actually start to turn over the camera, we're not worried about those incidentals, that they've been taken care of. And then we can move around and use the elements as we see fit. And then I can call on the radio for different fire prevention people to be in certain areas, or stunt people to be here, be there, to do the things that we need to be done to keep everything safe.
You ready, kids? Here we go.
And that's my prime goal. I want to make as much fire as I possibly can, but at the same time, I have to keep it as safe as I can.
Let's get ready. Let's clear the track. Move it on. So let's lose those fire blocks, logs you put in there, and replace them with your fire bar. We can take the one out and replace it. Huh? That's the whole reason. Is how do I unlock it? I'm wondering. I'm going to have this light effect. After the light effect goes out, then he turns and sees you.
Okay, so we'll be able to see the flames?
Yeah.
As soon as they go down the street?
Yeah. Folks, stand by. And action! Dragon. Go! Go! Okay, one more time. Slower off. Slower off. Straight away. When you're shooting a sequence like that has a lot of fire in it, I'm concerned with only what the camera sees. It's not an extravagance of fire. I'm not trying to burn the world. I'm trying to burn what the camera sees. So it's very important to be in tight communication with the director and the DOP and the cameraman to know exactly what their frames are, where they're going, how they're panning. Then when we set that up, we determine how close to the actors or stunt people we can come with the flame. We set up the scene, we'll test it, as we always do. We'll test it ourselves to make sure that there's not too much heat. There couldn't be any flaming debris falling on people that we don't want to have happen, and that the atmosphere level is good, and we go from there. We always had planned to use an extensive amount of propane. During the filming of that set, we used approximately 8 tons of liquid propane, as well as several thousand gallons of diesel, if you include second unit. We actually burnt diesel fuel on the set in through the Dante machines to create that black smoke look, and the regular smoke machines that we use to give atmosphere. When the camera is rolling, I'm usually sitting with the director, standing with the director, seeing what's going on, seeing where the fire is, knowing exactly what's happening, where the actors are in place, turning the fire on, turning it off when it needs to be on and off accordingly, and seeing that all is safe at the same time. Got it! Okay, good.
Okay, so you're in position, let go, and I'll like this, and we'll lift them in place, and we'll do a test. Okay, here we go, Mike. Take it out. Okay, your left leg, take it up to position.
You see what happens if
Take it up to position.
we put too much smoke outside? We do it.
Too much smoke outside.
If we can get easy smoke outside, because it affects the density of the shaft.
Well, you know, I ain't taking that.
Stay clear, Raymond.
Good. Keep the resting on.
Okay, Bruce. Okay, anytime.
Okay, okay, Mike, you ready? On 3. Doctor. 1.
You just tráilers.
3. Drill. Okay, let's try out just one bigger screen, just so we can see out the bigger screen. Donald, stand back.
We got 2 words for it.
1. Very good, very good.
Okay, we're convinced.
Okay, let's give a seal to the fire. Jerry, please. Jerry, seal. Fire is an interesting element because you never know how people are going to react to fire. You have to understand that some people who are very calm on set, who normally go about their job in a very business-like manner, when you introduce an extensive amount of fire, can get very nervous, and you always have to be aware that you explain safety routes, ways of egress to get off the set so that everybody is relaxed about it, because panic can ensue, and we all know what that can bring on. My favorite scene that we shot, a particular shot we did in the quarry, where we had the entire vineyard burning. The farmers were running back to their Jeep. We used the Dragon's Breath apparatus. That was actually the first Dragon's Breath in the picture as well. It was a spectacular shot. I think Rob was very happy with it.
And let's light it up. Light the fire, please. Light on fire. Light the something in the propane.
Okay, Bruce, just move that fire bar up, we're good.
Let's bring up the heights on the flame bar. Up higher on the flame bar, up higher on the flame bar. Let's go! Yeah, roll it! Roll it! Hey. How does it look? Good.
Bring it up, one of them's off.
And... Bring it down, bring it down, bring it on. Action!
One of the flames. Off, you're still running.
And go!
Devon! Devon!
Point. Shot for it, next shot. And remember, Duncan, you've been running, so you're out of breath, too. Roll it! Roll it!
43 Baker Deck 3, Mark.
And action!
He's dead. He's dead.
Dragon!
Allez! Allez!
Come on, let's go!
On it! Hey, David! Okay, stand by. We're going to rehearse the same thing again.
3 more steps forward, Al.
When we were using the Dragon's Breath, we had to be careful. It's an enormous amount of heat with that apparatus. We're shooting several hundred gallons of liquid propane at 200 pounds per square inch through 2 3-inch nozzles. So we're creating millions and millions of BTUs in a flash of an instant. We're creating a lot of heat right away, so we have to be very careful as to where we're pointing, how far we go, what the pressure is, and then correlate that and work with the director, with Rob, in terms of how close and what he needs to really get out of the scene. I'm never so satisfied as to when we cut after a shot like that, and I know the director's happy, and at the same time everyone's safe. Everyone has smiles on their face because it's been spectacular, and there's nothing that creates more adrenaline, pumps people up on the set more, is when we have a lot of fire.
Eddie!
Let's go! Let's go!
At the end of the day, of course, we have to shut everything down. My first phrase when we hear that it's wrapped, of course, is to make everything safe. And depending on what the scene is and where we are and how much fire we've used during the day, that can take 2 or 3 hours in terms of bleeding propane lines off. If we're going to be at the same location the next day, there's a certain amount that we can leave set up that's safe as long as there's security. And there's also, at the end of the day, if we're moving, there's a tremendous amount of things that have to be moved, prepared, put on trucks, ready to go to the next set. So it can be very long days during shooting days.